Welcome back to the secret underground lair. So we have a pedestal. Now we need a top. And I'm looking at all this scrap wood that I've got. This is mostly pallet wood. And thinking, how can I make a top out of this? So I have a few varieties of pine. I know I have some yellow pine. I've got some white pine in here. I have some basswood. I think this could be white pine, might be basswood, I'm not sure. And if it is basswood, I'm not sure that I want to use it. It'll come out a little too white. But we're gonna see. So the first thing that I will be doing, cleaning up one surface of each of these pieces. Like I say, cleaning up one side so I can see what kind of wood we've got. And if we have something that's going to be workable, then we'll glue it together with a good side down, or clean side down. That'll leave the other side a little bit uneven because these pieces have different widths. But we'll flip it over and run it through the router sled to even it all up on the underside. So, a mishmash of wood. Make a top for our pallet wood pedestal coffee table. That is today's adventure. So with all of that surface planing that I want to do, the first order is going to be getting these two pieces of tobacco kiln pine that I have. I want to get a nice clean surface that I can glue these two together like so, and then subsequently cut this to thickness and or clean up one side rather to make up the centerpiece of this table. So putting on fast forward, and I'll go through a bunch of times getting this cleaned up to the point where it's gluable, and we'll address the other pieces. I'm very happy with these surfaces, so I'm going to glue these two together like that, get them clamped up, and we'll start working on the other pieces. Well, I'm not exactly sure what this wood is. I think it might be some clear white pine. If you have any ideas on that, let me know. It's not stringy enough to be basswood. A little heavier than basswood. So I think it's just some white pine. Here's some what feels like the same kind of material on the outside, but it has different coloring. And it is kind of an interesting coloring, so this could work. And it looks like this is a combination of the two pieces that I just showed you, so yeah. This might be some just clear white pine. So I think these are candidates. So keep these guys. Let's clean up some of the other wood and see what we get there. There's a lot of wood kind of with one surface more or less cleaned up, so I can see what I'm working with, and I think I have a good selection here of wood that's going to come out very similar in color. There is variation, of course. For example, here I got some cathedral grain happening through here. This is a little bit of blue pine happening through here, so that's a little bit interesting. Close grained, which is nice. So, yeah, that's where we are. This could be an interesting little project. So I have all the pieces laid out to make up this top. And as you recall, I was going to double up some of the pieces. So these two pieces have been glued together. And I have a number of other bits around that are going to be thick enough. Like this piece here has got some good thickness through here, so I'm reasonably happy with that. It's not perfect, but it'll work for this table. And some more pieces that are thick enough, but clearly I have a bunch of pieces that I want to use that are not thick enough, so I'm going to need to glue these together. So these pieces have been, I've already trimmed this cut here, so these will fit together nicely. I'm just going to glue that onto here, and I'm just kind of picking along this edge here where I have probably the best wood. Best in air quotes. None of this wood is really fantastic, but this is all kind of an experiment, see what we can end up with. Alright, so we'll just let this set up. I'm going to work on the other boards, get them clamped up, come back when we have stuff that we want to trim on the table saw to get to kind of dimensionable lumber that can be joined together. So from all the boards that are going to make up our top, over on the tabletop, we now have all our boards that are glued together. So we got 4 strips here that we'll now cut and get straight edges on them. And for that, I'm just going to be using a bed rail technique, using remnants of a tool stand. I'm just going to tape that onto the board. I won't screw it in. And then run that through the saw to get a straight edge on one side of each of these boards. And then we can run it through the saw the other way to get a straight edge on the other side. So with those pieces kind of trimmed to be usable, I now have 34 inches of width from that side to that side. So I need to get another 2 inches, which I think I can get from those pieces back there. So we'll do another glue up and get those ready to go on. It's very important to have a good relationship with the head of design. So I had a luncheon meeting with our design department, head of design today. And we've come up with a slight change of plan. Rather than try and just, or not try, but rather than just kind of glue these pieces together like that and cut a big circle out of it, we're going to make this a segmented table, similar to the pedestal itself. So the table then will be constructed, like a large piece of pie, with various pieces making up these segments. And of course, they're going to be in differing widths because of the wood that we have available. So I'm going to cut each piece here about 19 inches in length, then trim it down to a consistent width and straight edges on both sides so that we can run it through a taper jig. And here are my stacks of pieces. So I've got 1.75, 1 3/4 inches is what I'll get out of this pile. About 2 inches from this pile. I think I have 3 1/4 from that pile, 5 1/2 from that pile, 3 inches from that pile, and another probably 3, maybe 3 1/4 from that pile. So that's going to give me just over the 113 inches that I need for the 113 inches will be the circumference of the table. So now we begin the process of cutting all of our blanks to a consistent width. So I'll start with this pile of wide planks and just get a straight edge first. The first pass on each of these, just get one straight edge. The second pass will be get them to the same, these to the same width, straight edges on both sides. So that's our first set of boards. Now, I'd originally planned that these would be 5.5 inches wide. They're actually going to be 5 1/8. So, might be a little bit short on blanks. Alright, got all our pieces cut. I am going to be short a little bit, so I'm going to scrounge around, find another couple pieces that I think we'll need. We're close, but I think I'm going to wind up being like 1/2 inch short. So I'll just get another piece to cater for that. So I'm ready now to cut the tapered pieces here, our little wedges. I've modified my taper jig to make this an adjustable setting. Clamp down at the top. I can hold it here at the back, down here, and we'll just push it through like so. So that should cut right nicely along this line, and we'll go through that stack there, get all these pieces cut to wedges, cut off one side like this. Then once I have all one side cut, take the jig off, we should be able to flip the wood over and cut the other taper, but we'll get to that in a minute. Get the opposite angle cut on this wedge. So we use the taper jig to get this angle cut. Now I want to cut down this side. What I've done is I've taken one of the cutoffs, put it on here like this. Now when I put that up against the fence, the saw will run right down here and make that cut exactly where I want it. So I have taped one of these cutoffs to this piece, and we're just going to push that through slowly and carefully. Right, there is our first wedge. Came out a little longer than I wanted, but that'll serve us well. That means just more out here to cut off, so I think I'm okay with that. And this seemed to work okay, just kind of taping that wedge into place, so I'm going to continue with that practice. I've just kind of laid these pieces now that we've cut out on the table. These are the bigger pieces here. But it occurred to me as I was going through this that even these little offcuts, putting them together back to back, we get perfect wedges. So here's an example of 3 back to back offcuts. They'll form perfect wedges for this. So we can intersperse these guys throughout, through the table. So I'm going to take this stack now over to the table saw and get these cut into wedges. I now have all of the pieces cut for our Starburst tabletop with the exception of this one little section up here. But I'm going to wait to do that one because I'm thinking with the glue up strategy that I want to adopt is to glue segments of the table together at a time. I'm not going to try to do the whole thing at once. So I have glued a couple pieces together like this. And gluing a couple pieces at a time seems to work pretty well. So what I'm expecting to be able to do is maybe glue, I'm not going to say a quarter, but maybe an eighth of the table at a time. I'll glue those pieces together and then bring the segments together and glue big segments together. So this is going to take a multi-step process to glue it up, but I think that'll give me the best option. And in the end, when I have all the pieces joined and they all kind of meet here in the middle, this is not going to be a perfect center. So what I'll do is I'll use a Forstner bit and cut out the center of that and then put a dowel in the middle to kind of give a little plug in the center of the table. That's the plan at the moment. So gluing lots of segments together is becoming a little bit of a challenge. In this, what I have set up here are 3 segments that are being glued together. This one, and these 2 pieces make a segment. They all come together at this point down here, which I was able to line up. But in trying to glue these together, and by putting 2 more segments out here to try and offset the angles so that I can clamp it, what I'm finding is I'm getting a lot of slippage along this line here where these 2 segments meet and these segments meet these segments. So this piece wants to slip out that way and these pieces want to slip out that way. So what I've done on the saw is I've put in a couple little stop blocks in that groove, my miter slot, and I've put a block here to kind of keep this piece from going that way, keep these are here to keep that guy from going that way, and then apply pressure. And that worked, but I know that I am at the limit of what can be done using this technique. So I've come up with another technique. What I've done is I've just created a little block out of plywood. This isn't clamped in, by the way, it's just mocked here for now. And I have just 2 pieces of plywood, 3/4 plywood, and a block in here, 2 blocks, 1 block here, 1 block here. These blocks can pivot, so depending on the size of the wedge that I'm slipping into here, these blocks will accommodate it. And then using a ratchet strap to come all the way around and around the back of this block, that ratchet strap will do 2 things. One, it'll draw the whole wedge into this block and force these guys closer together. And on the outside edges, it kind of brings the outside edges in to clamp up, apply pressure this way. So we're drawing it in to get pressure here, and we're drawing it in with the ratchet strap to bring it together there to tighten it up. So that technique, I think, is going to work a lot better. And we'll work on that for the next probably quarters of the table. This is nearly a quarter segment. So I should be able to get a full quarter in there. So we're going to glue up those now. I also put a little hole through here just so that I can look through and see if all the points are coming together. So that's what I'm up to right now, is getting larger segments glued together. So I'm going to put one of those in there, see how that works out. Now I'm going to take care of some of these other pieces. I have a little bit of hand planing that I'm going to do. For example, on this joint here, this piece here is not cut straight. So I'm going to fix that up with a hand plane and get him ready for glue up. So a segmented table is kind of hard to put together, but I want to show you this little jig here, how this has made life much, much, much easier. Okay, it's positioned in the block where I want it. Now, as I apply pressure, I am getting squeeze out all the way along the joint here, so that's good. That's what I want. Squeeze out all along here, that's perfect, and squeeze out, not quite so much right there, around, but I am able to flip this over now and see that I'm getting squeeze out all along both edges here. So that's going to be a good join. Just going to put a little sawdust on there to get rid of some of that. Okay, and I am now able to leave that as is, clamped up. That'll set and dry. So that's a little segmented clamping jig. That has been very helpful. So if our last piece is now clamped in our little clamping jig, and with the exception of one little key wedge that's got to be cut yet. But here's the rest of the table. So it is, it's going to have to be, I have to glue, this is one solid piece over here, got one piece here and one piece there. So we're going to have 4 pieces that will be glued together with we're going to use that ratchet strap as a banding clamp. And of course there's a little key wedge, so of the 4 pieces that I've got, I'm going to be left with a little gap. I don't know how big that is yet because I've been doing some fine tuning with every piece as I line them up. So when I have that final piece ready, I can cut that on the table saw, and that'll be what I'm going to call the key to the table. So it's our key piece. Anyway, I'm going to call that a video for today. A lot of progress on this tabletop. It's been done in fits and starts over the holiday. Today actually is New Year's Day, so Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.